Hey everybody, Nick here, and I am in the middle of a disassembly, this time of the Serge Panchenko slip joint that I have, and I just realized, you know what, I should make a disassembly discourse real quick, and what I wanted to talk about is sort of just a low-key announcement. It's an announcement of something that's already been happening, right? So it's kind of a weird announcement, but I'll go ahead and I figure it might not be a bad idea to formalize it. And that is an announcement of direction, so to speak. You know, one of the things that, life changes, right? And the channel changes. It has to, as, subscriber counts go up, which changes things, frankly, more than I anticipated. And frankly, as my amount of free time goes down a little bit, because, I have a career, I got a wife, I got stuff I got to do, right? But as all of those things change, so too must the channel change. And so I've been thinking for a while now, and in fact, all summer, it's October of 2020 at this point, I've been thinking about this change and what I want it to actually look like. And what I've kind of decided is that I want this channel to become, rather than a place that you go for a review of every knife, I want this channel to end up being and feeling like a place that you go to see the best of the best. That you go to find gear that is good. Or in some cases, that is great, that is amazing. And I've kind of talked about this a little bit before in my I Am the Gem Hunter thing, but I'm going to be dialing it up a little bit further. Because honestly, I don't love giving negative reviews. So there were times where it's like, you love to hate it, right? I got to be real with you here. There's that. There's some joy in that. Absolutely 100%. And no objections there. However, just like excoriating some poor product for design flaws, for things like that, there was very little joy in that. And there's even less joy as I grow bigger, right? Because especially for a relatively small maker, getting a strongly negative review from a well-known channel is no longer necessarily going to provide them with an incentive maybe to improve things for the future, but it might actually make it very difficult for the company to have a future. That's giving myself way too much power, but there is something to be said there. A truly negative review from anybody on the high end, that could be really a bad thing for a smaller maker, right? Especially in the custom world. So that's, there is a great power comes great responsibility aspect to this, and that's pretentious as heck, but hey, I'm pretentious as heck. It works out, right? But anyways, so there's that component of it. But the other thing is, I also don't particularly love doing mediocre reviews. I mean, there is no shortage of pieces out there in the world of knives, watches, pens, etc., where you pick it up, you do the review, you set it down, and then you promptly forget that it ever was a thing, right? These are the kinds of videos where you'll watch it, you'll go, oh, I guess that exists. I'll watch it, I'll film it, I guess that exists. Then maybe 3 years down the road, I'll see one and be like, oh yeah, that was a thing, right? They discontinued that 20 minutes later because it wasn't that good. Like, those don't bring me any bit of joy either. So I really would love to focus more and more on finding the best of the best. The other reason that I'm doing this, part of it is just selfish, right? I like giving positive reviews. I like giving honest reviews, and my reviews will always remain honest. Even as I'm talking about great stuff, I will always talk about the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly. My goal is not to be, just gentle to everything that comes across my table. No, you'll get an honest take on everything, but I just want to give my honest take more often to stuff that's actually worth a damn, right? This stuff that I feel like stands up to the honesty well. Stuff that, doesn't have that much bad and ugly. But anyways, the other reason that I'm interested in doing this is because completionism is really hard. Like, as a review channel, it's real tempting to go there. To be like, oh, there's a brand new release from Crinkle Fleep. I need to get on that. And that's not a company yet, but it's my made-up knife company name. So there you go. I should get on that. And, people are always like, oh, what are you going to have a new review of the blah-blah-blah, blah-blah-blah, blah-blah, blah. And it's like, probably not going to happen. Just because already, even taking on a relatively few items, oh boy, that action. Even taking on relatively few things, it's already taxing sort of the time I have to do. But the more important element of it is there are more good review channels than ever. There are more channels out there these days who are doing really, really nice work. They're doing honest reviews, which is amazing. They're doing testing. And by testing, I mean, things like actual rigorous scientific style testing, like, for instance, Laren Thomas, Knife Steel Nerds, BBB. Also folks like Pete over at Cedric and Ada Gear and Outdoors, or Outpost 76. There are a bunch of people out there who are doing really, really nice work talking about, these pieces. And people who are out there giving good, positive reviews. I'm sorry, not positive, giving good, honest reviews, positive and negative. And at some level, I'm very happy to let them continue working. And I'm finding another thing to disassemble, by the way. As I'm working on, here we go, perfect. The Chris Reeves Nundy here. Chris Reeve, not Reeves. She's not Superman in any way, shape, or form. But anyways, so I've been sort of, I've been thinking very hard about this, and I really feel like it is the best solution to move forward. By the way, you're going to see me using a different kit here. This is from iFixit, actually. I am trying their little kits here and seeing how those work, because I already used their drivers. Now I'm curious about their the rest of their stuff. But anyways, so I'd like to kind of leave some room in some ways. I realize that, weirdly enough, and I really don't want to sound like I'm tooting my own horn here any more than I need to, but I realize that very often these days I'm getting highly ranked on search engines for any given thing that I've reviewed, which makes sense, big channel, etc., but still, oof. I'd rather see some, other smaller channels get that spotlight a little bit more, right? That seems to me, hi there, that seems to me to be a good approach. So anyways, you might be asking yourself, well, Nick, okay, that's well and good, but how do you plan to actually implement this? What are you doing here? What concrete things is happening? Are you just pontificating for no damn good reason? So the way that this is going to work, and the way that it's been working for the last few months, and working pretty well, is pretty straightforward. In my little disclaimer, so let's say I buy something. I go out and I use, my own damn money to buy something from, a Blade HQ, a Knife Joy, a Great Eastern, not Great Eastern Cutlery, Great Blade, GP Knives, whatever the heck, any damn place. At that point, it's actually quite easy, right? It's just like, oh, well, I got this. Turns out it's not that good. I'm going to move it along. And I just list it up for sale for my patrons. Take a little bit of a bath, but that's okay. Because, yeah. But then when makers send me gear, it's only slightly more complicated. You can read my whole disclaimer there on the maker on my website, nickshabazz.com/disclaimer. You can read my whole little disclaimer, but the thing is, it says on there very directly that, hey, if I don't love what you're sending me, I may just send it home to you. So, sending something doesn't mean there's going to be a review happening. And I've been using that more often. And I try not to be a dick about it. And in fact, what I try to do is if somebody sends me something, I'm like, I don't think this is going to be something I want to review for the channel. I'll say, would you like some feedback on it? In some cases, they actually, I would say in every case so far, the maker has asked and has appreciated that. Or at least, the very least, they acted like they appreciated it, right? But anyways, and so I'll just give them some feedback. I'll say, oh, well, this particular area was a little bit weak, and then and the price point, and I'll just basically give them a quick little stealth review here. And it seems like fair enough pay, so to speak. If they're willing to let me take a look at something, I'll ship it home to them, no problem, and give them that information, right? So that's actually been quite nice, and I think it's actually sort of a win-win-win thing right here. For me to go this direction, I think it's pretty crucial, right? If I'm going to keep doing this, and I'm going to keep finding joy in it, I think this is going to need to happen. As the channel has changed in size, etc., it's just, it's got to be a thing. But more importantly, well, maybe not more importantly, but, equally importantly, I think it is just kind of a win roundly. It's a win for makers. It's because, well, they can send something to me with a little bit less fear, right? They can get some feedback on a product and, whether I love it or hate it or am pretty indifferent to it, they'll know that. And there's less chance of just a complete and total bloodbath, which I don't want to do and they don't want, and less chance of really hurting a smaller maker with a negative review, even if it is earned. Even if every little bit of that review was absolutely well-deserved, I'm not interested in doing that to them anymore. That seems like not the best thing I can be doing with my platform. It's a win for me because it allows me to try things a little bit more widely, right? My goal here, by the way, is not to just reinforce my own biases. My goal here is not just to say, oh, well, I'm only going to review the things that I, Nick Shabazz, like. My goal is to find great stuff, and I understand that great stuff is different things to different people, right? There are amazing pieces out there in the world. Where the heck is the backspacer for this? Right here. Alrighty. But no, I completely and totally acknowledge that, there are places where my opinions are gonna diverge from a lot of folks, but there are still gems. I don't want to just look at expensive stuff, right? That'd be really dumb because most people can't afford expensive stuff. I want to focus on stuff that's out there too. I'll look at expensive stuff, but I want to look at other good stuff too. But anyways, so I think it's a win for me because it lets me be a little bit more broad in my choices. It lets me take more risks. Lets me say, you know what? I don't quite know what you're after here or what you got here is something I'm interested in, but I'll take a look and we'll take a look. And that might mean that no, it turned out not to be. But in that case, I'm not wedded to it, so to speak. I'm not going to have to spend 10 freaking years. Feels that way, filming a review of a piece that I really am in no way, shape, or form enthusiastic about. That's not great in and of itself. But it's also a win, I think, for you all too, potentially, just because it should increase the signal-to-noise ratio a little bit. I know there are probably people who come here for negativity, right, who come here for hit pieces, but I think they've probably all left at this point already. And so what instead this should mean is that, the stuff, when you come to my channel and you see a review of something, you're going to be like, oh, this is probably going to be good. Something being on my channel is going to be indicative of, what, this has got some quality to it. It's not necessarily going to be uniform. Don't come back and, I thought you said you were reviewing good things. I still got a backlog. I'm working on it, right? But nonetheless, so I think it's going to be a win for makers who are able to get some honest feedback and kind of turn this into a stealth review more often. And it's going to be good for me because it's going to make my sanity better because I'm doing things that I like, namely reviewing good stuff more often, and I'm not doing stuff I hate, slogging through mediocrity or, having bloodbaths there. That's a win, and I hope that it'll be a win for you all as well. So I guess that's kind of what I wanted to just say here, is that this is already sort of in place. It's already been happening. I talked about this with my Patreon patrons probably in June or so, I think. I kind of use them very often as a sounding board. I'll have like town hall threads where I just talk to them like, hey, what do y'all think about this? Because they're in many ways going to be my, if not best fans, certainly some of my most dedicated fans, willing to support the channel in that way. And everybody's been on board, so to speak. But I just figured I should say that to the masses as well, because it's a thing. So anyways, I hope that this has been interesting to you, and I hope that you're going to stay with me, so to speak, through the continued journey of the channel. And honestly, I don't know that there's a way to not do this. I think this is sort of the necessary path, but I figured I'd verbalize it a little bit while taking apart something that is, well, absolutely awesome. The Nundy is an absolutely wonderful piece here. So, as are a bunch of things. So, I hope this has been interesting to you, and feel free to let me know in the comments what you think. But most of all, I want you to have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day, and yeah, thank you very much for bringing me to the point where I'm having to have these questions, right? Because that in and of itself is pretty damn absurd. So, bye, everybody.